On today's episode of the show, we're going to be talking about the Donruss Football release and why I think that people are buying some of these cards. On today's episode of the show, we're going to be talking about the Donruss Football release that just came out and why I think people are buying these cards, even though over the past few years we've seen a ton of data to show that the prices are much higher around the release of the product compared to where they end up being. My name is Adam from Herosforsale, and over the past 3 years, I've created over 2,000 pieces of content related to sports cards across all social media platforms. If you like sports cards, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and if you learned anything new or have a question, make sure you leave it in the comments. On Twitter, I put out this question about why I thought people were buying these Donruss cards at prices that are just pretty crazy. Like, I think one of the statistics that has come out from last year's Donruss release is that the Clyde Edwards-Helaire Donruss card after week 1 was around $60, and now you can buy that card for $1. Now, it may have to do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire not living up to the hype. You know, he had probably had a great week 1, but still, we've seen years of data showing that these cards right around the time of when they release, they're just a lot higher in price. And so I was trying to figure out exactly why that was. And so I put the question out on Twitter asking why this was happening. I got a bunch of responses that I thought were pretty good. The response I got the most was that people were having FOMO or fear of missing out, which I guess I understand because it is like one of the first big products that comes out every year. Like, I think Certified had base rookies, but they were numbered, which actually I didn't even realize. I thought that the Certified base rookies were the first ones of the players in their new uniforms, but it turns out they're actually all numbered, all the base cards, which they're numbered to 499, I think is the lowest number of the base cards. So, like, this fear of missing out is definitely something that I've seen in sports cards. It's something that I think just goes on with anything new that you're getting into. Like, if you're just getting into football cards this year and you see Donruss come out and you see the first Trevor Lawrence card of him in his new uniform, you know, I don't begrudge people for wanting to buy that card or wanting to get into some of these rookie cards early, because also one of the other things that people were saying is that they just don't know that they don't know the data that is saying that these cards are going to go down in price. Like, if you look at the cards of the top 3 rookies, the Tua, the Joe Burrow, and the Justin Herbert from last year, you know, the Burrow was obviously a lot higher and then it dropped. So Justin Herbert is still kind of in like the $20 range currently for his Donruss card, which I still think is a little bit high. I would say Donruss is probably one of the better products when it comes to some of the lower end stuff, but, like, you know, at this point, I just don't see how the $20 for the Justin Herbert or even any of these new rookies, if you're buying them for $20, there's a pretty good chance that, you know, some of them aren't going to pan out this year. Like, some of them might get benched, but the price are going to go down pretty significantly. So, like, the other response that I got other than FOMO, there was a couple pretty good ones that I saw a lot in the comments on Twitter. The other one was that people just don't know. Like, they're seeing this product for the first time. Like I said, if you're just getting into football cards, like, you might not have done the research to really see that over the course of many years, we've seen these prices be higher, which, like I said, that's just something that happens. And I think hopefully if people are watching this video, they'll know that you shouldn't be buying these cards right away. And, like, even if the player does pan out and turns into like Justin Herbert and wins Rookie of the Year, like, you're still, the rookies right now are still more expensive than what the Justin Herbert is, and he's probably one of the most hyped quarterbacks from last year. The Joe Burrow, I think, was around $50 last year. You can find that for around $10 to $12 now for the base Donruss. I think also what we're kind of seeing is that people are trying to buy these cards and then they're going to send them in for grading and do, you know, either an express or some sort of fast service and then sell the cards on eBay and be one of the first people to sell one of these graded cards. Like, that's what happened with the LaMelo Ball cards. Someone bought a bunch of them and they sold them and they probably made a decent profit. But I just think at this point it's not worth buying them at this hype to send them into grading and risk kind of the pricing that you're getting. Like, if you look at it this way, I just don't think that the Donruss is going to be worth in a year from now. Now, if you're flipping them, obviously that's going to be a little bit different. You're not really worried about from a year from now. You're worried about like what they're going to be like a month or two from now. So like if you're buying it, if you're buying any of the cards, like Chris from House of Jordan's put out a great graphic that I'll put on the screen here, showing the prices of these players, of the top 5 rookies from this year's NFL draft, and you're seeing that even Mac Jones is selling for more than Tyler or Trevor Lawrence, which, I think there's definitely the upside, I think, for both of those players is pretty significant. Like, I would say the Patriots in general, if a rookie quarterback is good, they're going to have probably a better season than like if the Jaguars are good, because like I don't see the Jaguars necessarily flipping from like they were 1-15 I think last year. I don't necessarily see them jumping to a playoff team just because they got Trevor Lawrence. Now you could probably look at that team and say, well, halfway through the season they won in week 1 and then they literally lost every other game for the rest of the year. And I think they were on pace with like the Jets to be the worst team, and then when they lost, and I think the Jets won, they beat some team last year, and that essentially guaranteed that if the Jaguars just lost all the rest of their games, that they were going to get the number 1 pick and they were going to get Trevor Lawrence. Which, like, it's so funny that over the past few seasons, like, you've seen that with that's what happened in New York with the Knicks too. Like, for the whole season, the year before Zion, everyone was making the photoshops with Zion and like the Knicks jerseys, and they were tanking. I guess you could say maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but they were playing really poorly. And the Knicks people also it's funny that the Knicks also thought they were going to get Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and then they didn't get any of them. Now, Emmanuel Quigley is one of the players that they got. They have the Knicks have an interesting team, but this isn't really about the Knicks. But I just thought it was funny that it basically was almost the same thing that happened. Obviously, there's no draft lottery in the NFL. It's just whoever's the worst team gets the first pick, which, in my opinion, I think that they should figure out a different way to do this. Like, with the first pick, like, I almost think that they should have some sort of, like, tournament where if you are one of the worst teams, you play in this tournament, and then the winner of the tournament gets the first pick, because it, I think it engages the fans a little bit and gets them to root for their team, not just to lose, but like to lose, I guess, and then be in the tournament and get this first overall pick. So like I said, it's just funny that happened with New York twice over the past few years. Like, they expect to get Trevor Lawrence. Now, Zach Wilson is a guy, BYU, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. You obviously Trey Lance, Mac Jones, and then Trevor Lawrence, and then the 5th quarterback. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with all of these rookie quarterbacks this year. But I think overall, people may just not necessarily know that this is what happened. Like, when I was talking, I was on Clubhouse like a couple months ago, probably like 6 to 8 months ago, probably. There was somebody that was telling me that they bought one of the LaMelo Ball Hoops rookies for like $120, and like, I didn't want to tell him at the time, like, hey man, you should probably try and sell that and just buy it back, because you could buy LaMelo Prism rookies right now for like $50 or $60. So like, obviously that Hoops rookie is not probably worth what he paid for it, but it's also sort of like, when you're in this sports card content creation and people are coming in and telling you about their cards, it's kind of similar with like the junk wax era cards. Like, it's hard to tell someone that their card isn't worth what they think it is. It's kind of a buzzkill, and it's a little bit hard to tell them that. Now, I think he probably at this point has realized that, but it's just like, with there being so much data, I think it's important to continue to tell people that there is this data, because like I said, people might just not know that, they may not know that this is actually a trend that exists within sports cards when products first release. And then the other response that I got that was pretty prominent in these comments was just that people think that this time is going to be different. Like, I saw a lot of people talking about Brady and Trout rookies when, like, Trout rookies apparently were $3 or something when that product first came out. Now, I don't think anybody really expected Trout or Brady to be anything like what they are now in the leagues, being the best players. Like, Brady especially, because he was a 6th-round pick. I don't need to tell you the Tom Brady story, because I think at this point everybody knows that. But, like, people think that by buying these cards that they're going to turn into the next, like, Trout, or they're going to turn into the next Brady, or the next, Mahomes. But, like I said, it's just, especially with Donruss, and I think this is one thing that I definitely noticed on TikTok and then also on Twitter a little bit, and not just with Donruss, with Prestige, it was especially like this. people had like walls and walls. Like I saw multiple videos of tons of people that had Prestige. And I think the reason is basically just because nobody really wants Prestige. Like that's why they were able to get so much of it. So if you are a flipper or if you are buying and selling retail products, I just think you should be doing a little bit more research and not just buying every product that's in retail. Because, yes, when you get like Optic and you get Prism and you get Hoops even, like, and Score is another one that was kind of in the same realm as Prestige. It was like, people had like tons of walls worth of Prestige and Score, and like those products just like aren't good. Like, and I say not good from the standpoint like, you're not getting any real base rookies out of there. You're still getting rookies with players in their college uniforms. So, and sometimes I'm trying to change sort of the terminology that I'm using with like good and bad, because at the same time, like what's good to me may not be good to someone else, and vice versa. Like someone may like Prestige because they can get it and they can open it, and that's why they think it's a good product. But I'm just looking at it and telling people, like, if you are buying these products at retail, like don't expect that Prestige or like Score are going to double or triple. Like you can find Donruss right now online for like $70 is what I've seen blasters going at, which I think that even that price will go down, because I think there's going to be more product that comes out, and they're going to keep releasing that product. And even though it is a product that has these base rookies in there, it's just not one that you're really going to see have a ton of resale value down the road, just for the mere fact that like there's so many other products that end up coming out that are just so much better that you can find at retail, that you just don't see these products having as much of a return. So like I was seeing a lot of people outraged by some of these videos of the Prestige walls and the Score walls, and I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal, because like if you know anything about sports cards, like they're going to have probably a hard time moving that product eventually when they decide to, like in 2 or 3 years or however ever long they hold on to it. I would be surprised if they end up selling that product for any more than they bought it for. But at the same time, like maybe this time is different, and maybe that's what people are thinking. But like doing the research and making sure you understand the market before you buy some of these cards, especially because like at the $25 to $50 range, like there are so many like more better cards that you can buy for that price. And I just think it's important for me as a content creator and other people in the space to continue to remind people every year when these products come out that they shouldn't be going crazy and buying up all of these cards, because eventually, 3, 4, 5 months from now, some of these cards are going to be worth like $4 or $5. Like I don't know if the Trevor Lawrence ends up getting there, but I could see like the Trey Lance or like the Justin Fields. Like I could see some of these, like if Tua, for example, is like $5 to $6 right now. Like he was fine last year. He wasn't great, but like he's going into his second year. There's still a decent amount of hype around him. But like even Justin Herbert, who is the top guy coming out of last year's draft class, if his are only 20 right now, I think there's a good chance that best case scenario, depending on how you're looking at it, worst case scenario when you're buying the card, I think the Trevor Lawrence or the Mac Jones or any of these other rookies are easily going to get down into that $20 range, if not less. So like I said, I think it's important for content creators like us to make sure, just remind people, because they may, like I said, they may not know, or they may be influenced by somebody telling them that like, maybe this is a product that you want to buy or whatever. So like I said, I think it's important for us to recognize that that's what's going to happen, and remind people kind of what the reality of the situation is with Donruss Football. So that's all I've got for today's video. I want to thank you all for watching. Make sure you go like and subscribe, and if you have any comments or if you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.